This video will specifically focus on IAC preparation and tips that you will need as an IAC candidate. If you don't already know, my name is Lisa Ranko. I am a digital content creator, chartered accountant, and speaker, and I'm also the founder of Learning, Growth, and Contribution. On this channel, it's all about learning, growth, and contribution. So I'm very excited for this video. It's not going to be as long as the first two, and I just want to encourage you, if you haven't been following me on the IAC Catalyst playlist, that name, it's giving. Catalyst, a thing that's going to be taking over, you know what I mean? So please do watch the first videos where I break down what exactly is the IAC exam and how has it changed from ITC to IAC. The second video also focuses on what an integrated single scenario looks like. For those of you who have been asking me, what is the change going to look like visually? So I do hope that before you continue watching this video, you can pause here and go watch the other two videos. Now, tip number one of the IAC exam preparation tips. The first one is you need to understand what type of learner are you. Now, I have done a detailed video on this specific subject, and I really hope that you can also pause and go back to that video, because once you understand what type of learner you are, it's very easy to identify or get to know the approach which you must tackle when you are studying or preparing for the IAC exam. So there are 4 different types of learners. You can either be a visual learner, you can either be a tactical learner, a reading, writing learner, or an auditory learner. So that specific video that I mentioned goes into the detail of the type of learner. So for me, I mentioned in that video, I am a visual / reading, writing, auditory, tactical learner. My learning style depends on the day, but mostly I am a visual person. So I used to study using pictures, or I used to draw out what's in my mind, because I'm one person that for me to understand something complex, I really need to write it out or draw it out, or I need to use something that's real life. And this is so interesting because a lot of people on the CSA journey, they get so attached to the standards and what they've read or how they've interpreted them, that they haven't even taken a step further to ask, how does this look like in practice? And I was always that learner, especially in an auditing classroom where we had to come up with procedures for something that I had never seen, like those revenue and receivable cycles, those purchases and payable cycles. My guy, I struggled because I'm like, yeah, but what does it actually look like? I see the flow charts, man. I can see from one area to the next, but what does this actually look like in practice? And so if you're that type of learner, you have to be very creative in how you study. So for me, I mentioned that I used to draw out the things that I'm seeing in my mind. I also used to find real life scenarios to see how it actually fits in. And I'm going to give a top tip at the end of this video. So if you want to know that top tip, stay tuned. The second tip is you need to develop a study plan. Now, this is very important because if you don't have a study plan, you are going nowhere, my guy. Let me tell you something. When I was in CTA going into writing ITC, IAC for you guys, is I needed to use a calendar, and I had this massive calendar that was above my bookshelf right next to where I studied, so that I can actually see which days I'm meant to study. And some people might think, oh, you're not studying every day. In my situation, unfortunately, I couldn't because my daughter was very young at that time. So I needed to be very creative in when I studied and be very specific on how I studied. So using a calendar is very important. If you're not like a physical person, a paper person, use your phone calendar, use Google Calendar, use whatever it is. Google Calendar is also amazing to send you reminders on what to study, the subjects to study, and be very specific in your calendar. You also need to know which times you are studying and how long you are studying. So for me, I'm a morning person. So my mornings had to include the most efficient and effective time, because that's when I was mostly productive. So my mornings were used, for example, to do tip number 3, which is exam conditions and practicing under exam conditions. But I used to study and write out my exams in the morning when I had energy, and then in the afternoon when I was really tiring out, I would use that to reflect. So even for you, you need to be able to understand what time am I studying and how long am I studying for. Another thing is also on your calendar, specify which days are going to be used for simulating the exam, which days are going to be used for marking the exam, and which days are going to be used for reflecting on the exam. And then the most important part, which days am I going to use to meditate on the exam? Reflection and meditation sound like the same thing, but they really aren't, because when you are reflecting, you are going over what you did, right? When you are meditating, you are really considering and sitting in the thought of the exam. You are immersing yourself in the exam. And because ITC is written so closely after you finish CTA, again, it's an overflow of your CTA knowledge. So if you didn't take time to reflect on your CTA journey or understand the principles, that's why preparing for IAC can be very challenging, because this is not a regurgitate type of exam. This is, you need to be able to be comfortable with the principles, the meditation of the principle, how it may look like in a real life scenario. So really, in your calendar, mark out which days are going to be for simulating the exam, which days are going to be used for marking the exam. And marking the exam also takes time. You need to mark yourself fairly. And I always did this for myself. I marked myself more strictly than the marker's solution. The reason I did that is so that I can cement certain principles. Like sometimes we become so lenient when we're marking our own scripts. It's like, yeah, I kind of knew what I think I was trying to say. But if you didn't say it, you didn't say it. And SAICA is the same. They're not going to say, I think this is what they meant, so I'm going to afford them the mark. So you need to be very strict in your marking process and make sure that even when you are reflecting on the marks, ask the question, why did I get this wrong? Why was I even thinking like this? What word triggered my thought pattern? And where did I even go wrong in my thought pattern? Those are the types of reflections that you must do when you are reflecting on exam. Not just like, oh, I got it wrong. Oh, I got it wrong. Yes, I got it right. Why did you get it right? Why did you get it wrong? That is very important, because that's going to help you enhance your study approach. Another thing is identifying a day where you are only going to work on your weaknesses. This is very important, because some people get very comfortable with the disciplines that they know. Like one of the Marcus comments that I read is, people are very woke when it comes to financial reporting. You guys are bomb. You know what I mean? Like most of you know what's cutting with financial reporting. But what about audit? Yeah? What about management, accounting, and finance? The one that's dribbling you guys. Like that is the worst one. Like there was a 7% pass rate on one of the questions that specifically spoke to management, accounting, and finance. And management, accounting, and finance is based on principles. And if you struggle with principles, that is going to be your Achilles heel. This is going to be what brings down the whole ship and brings down the whole building if you really don't understand principles. And management, accounting, and finance is the perfect discipline to actually assess, do you understand a principle? So make sure that you are designating a specific day where you work on your weaknesses. Work on audit, work on management, accounting, and finance, work on strategy, work on risk and management, work on your governance. Do you still understand the CPC? Have you gone through the Companies Act? Do you understand how the Companies Act and auditors work or coincide or work together? Have you gone through those questions where you are the auditor and you have to come up with test of details? Because this is one area that people also don't know what they don't know. Like, you are great at quoting the general procedures. Yes, cast. Cross cast. What's the other one? Agree the TB to the Fs. Yo, those ones, you guys flourish. What about when you actually have to test the detail? And I think for me, this is going to be another top tip that I put at the end of this video, because knowing what I know, having audit experience, I see where the issue actually is, but I do think that it's possible to overcome at an ITC level, IAC level, because we did it. We are testimony, and other people that have passed are also testimony that those test of details can be done without the necessary audit background that you might think that you are missing out on. Another thing is, this is very important. This is a question that you need to ask yourself after every reflection or after every meditation is, how do I measure the goals that have been set and achieved for the day? So if you decided that today you're going to be studying auditing and you said, in audit, I'm going to work on test of details, right? How are you going to measure that you have achieved that goal? That means that you have to go to your practice questions and say to yourself, if 50% was the benchmark for me passing these exams that I'm doing, have I achieved 50%? If you haven't achieved 50%, it means you have to go back to the foundational core aspects. Do you understand risk? Do you understand assertions? Do you understand the actual standard that you are testing to come up with the test of detail procedures? Do you understand what does a substantive testing approach look like? Do you understand that test of details also includes substantive analytical procedures? So things like that, you need to be able to measure definitively the progress that you have set out for yourself, or that you have put out for yourself, in order for you to know whether you are tracking or not, because there isn't a lot of days left, right? So the way you use your days needs to be very efficient, and it can't just be because I've studied for 8 hours, I'm going to pass, or today I did 10 hours, I'm definitely going to pass. I know people that spend the whole day studying and they still fail because they don't understand exam technique. They don't understand their own weaknesses. They don't understand the type of learner that they are. They don't understand where their weaknesses are located. Like, those are the things that you need to make sure that you're not undermining. So that was tip number 2, develop a study plan. The third tip is practice under exam conditions. I need to say that for the people at the back. Louder for the people at the back. Practice under exam conditions. What does this mean, Lesego, in English? Because sometimes this seems like people know what it means, but actually they don't know what it means. When you practice under exam conditions, think about the day when you go write the IAC. You are going to wake up early. You are going to eat breakfast. You are going to drive to Gallagher or wherever the location is. You are going to have a clock that you are facing. You are going to be in a very uncomfortable position. There's going to be thousands of people there sitting right next to you. So when you practice under exam conditions, you need to wake up early, okay? For me, I drove to the library, as in I needed to move away from what is comfortable, because on the day of the exam, I'm not writing at home. Maybe, just maybe, when I was writing those procedures, I had some memory bank because I was in the comfort of home. Could I still access that information at a library? I don't know. Can you still access the information that you studied at Gallagher? We have yet to see after you pass. So even for you, drive to a location or go somewhere where you are uncomfortable or there's a level of discomfort, because that's what that day is going to be like. Make sure that you have a clock. Don't just use your watch or use your timer on your phone, because you're not using your phone in the exam. You need to have a clock that's on standby so that you can see the time. Because if you don't practice how you are going to play, there are certain things that you cannot manage on the day because you haven't attempted it. So make sure that you do use a clock. You wake up early, you drive to a location. Another thing, oh my gosh, when I read this comment, I was like, you guys are playing games. I'm like, handwriting. The Marcus comment says, the legibility of this handwriting is of a concern. I was like, it actually is a concern. How are you after writing PGDA, NCTA, still having to be told to write clearly and legibly? Like, guys, like some things we need to attack, we need to face. We can't be kind with them. We can't be accepting of them. If your handwriting needs an update, do it now. You know what I mean? Like, if your A's and your E's are not looking like the same thing, change it now, because the markers are not going to take the time to figure out what you wrote. They are basically going to take whatever they read and mark that. So you don't also want to make a marker frustrated. These people are marking a lot of papers and your names are not even there. There's no favoritism, no ambiguity in them saying, oh, I think this person really studied hard, so I'm going to give them the mark. It does not work like that. Again, please go to the markers comments, go to that second video where I go through the markers comments and go specifically under that heading where it speaks about your handwriting and how you need to make sure that the markers can read what you are writing. Another thing is you need to allocate your time based on the marks awarded. This is something that I don't know how to stress at an IAC level, because this is something that you probably used when you're writing CTA and PGDA. Hence, you passed. So why do you forget when you have to write a board exam? If something is worth 30 marks, then it's 1.5 marks per question. So it means you only spend 45 minutes on that question. 1.5 times 30 marks gives you 45 minutes. That is the logic for every other question. And now, this is the part where I have to stress. Move on. If you have reached the 45-minute mark for your 45 minutes time for your 30 marks, you move on. This is the art of being a chartered accountant, because at the end of the day, you need to learn that that 45 minutes was meant to capture everything. And if you didn't achieve what it was supposed to achieve, then you needed to fix it in that 45 minutes. You cannot now disregard the other questions or the rest of the paper because you want to go back and really like, oh my gosh, I really know this answer. Like, if I spend 10 more minutes, there's no 10 minutes left. There's nothing to add. It's a wrap. It's finished. And I think I wrote this down because I really wanted to drive this home. A CA essay without a plan is not a CA essay. Let me say it louder for the people at the back. A CA essay without a plan is not a CA essay. And I'm ready to fight, but I can't fight, so I'm not going to do that. At the end of the day, if you don't start planning your answers, you are going to get into the trap of just writing things just for just. There's another Marcus comments that spoke about quality over quantity, because some people feel like, oh, the more I write, the point is going to come across. In one of these paragraphs, my point is going to come across. That's not what happens in the real world. At the end of the day, when you are asked a question, you are going to answer what is being asked and you're going to get to the point. And the only way you're going to get to the point is if you plan out your answer and make sure that you have a plan for answering every question that you will be addressing in the IAC exam. Now, the fourth and last tip is reflect. You need to make sure that you are revisiting your notes as often as possible. If you are one person that is juggling work and studying, or maybe you have the luxury of having study leave while you prepare for IAC, make sure that you are reflecting before you go to bed, so that when you are dreaming, you're dreaming IFRS. I know nobody wants to dream IFRS, but at the end of the day, for us to pass, we had to dream IFRS here. I was writing exams in my dreams. I don't want to say it's foolproof that you're going to pass, but at the end of the day, I am a CASA. The proof is in the pudding. You need to dream about the CASA and IFRS. You need to wake up and the first thing that you see is your IFRS. So make sure that you have your notes next to you. It's only for a season. Can I say that louder? It's for a season. If you really are intentional and determined to pass this exam, it's for a season. You're not going to sleep with IFRS your whole life. It's just for the month of January or the month of April, May, June. And April, May, June before you write that city. It's for a season. And if you do it correctly, you never have to do that again. Well, let me rephrase. There's APC and then you never have to do it again. So make sure that you really are taking time to reflect. Become one with the study process. At this stage of the exams and you writing the first SAICA board exam, you have a track record of PG Dip as well as CTA. So don't now start looking at this process like, oh my gosh, another exam. You are already in the jam of studying, my guy. Like, just see it through. Make sure that you're becoming one with the study process. You can't have a level of FOMO because people are starting to work, or some people are really having an easy January or an easy June. If your goal is to pass this exam, irrespective of how people are spending their time, you need to become one with the study process. And this is where I wanted to mention that if really after these tips you feel like, listen, I still need more time, I still need more work, I still need more guidance, I have started mentoring officially IAC candidates. So if you don't already know, I have a website where I had hosted Bridge the Gap, and now the website has been updated to include the personalized IAC mentoring that is available. There are different time slots for you to choose from. I'm hopefully going to put a video over here so that you can actually see how you can book the actual service, the time that suits you. If there are different needs that you may have, there are different packages that are available. So if you really need maybe one consult or two, then I would advise that you go for the flex package. If you are somebody that really needs some more time or some structural feedback, then the Accelerate is an amazing one. If you really are serious about life, you would go for the premium package, because I made sure that every package that you sign up for is going to give you the maximum value and your maximum chance to actually pass this IAC exam. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I am rooting for you always. If you're going to be watching this later, if you are writing or watching this before you actually write, make sure that you go through the whole playlist so that you can actually see the videos from cradle to grave, and make sure that you've covered every approach or every angle that the IAC has. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.